Hello and welcome to a video that's going to show you how to insert a pivot table and insert a slicer for a matrix of data. So right here in front of you, you can see that there is a matrix of data in front of you, and it has a couple different categories. We're going to be putting date, the expense in here. This is really kind of useless when it comes to the actual pivot table, but we're going to keep it in there for informational purposes. And then we've got the expense category. We ended up keeping it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 categories. You want to have only a few categories unless you have a magnanimous amount of data so that you can have something to kind of squish it together on. And then we have the amount here. The stuff in parentheses is negative, and then we've got positive here for income. We've got the payment origination. Some of the things are filled out, some of them aren't, so we wanted to put that in there. And then a check number. So first things first, we're going to put this into a pivot table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this entire top row because I know there's dates for everything. I'm going to use my Control Shift down arrow to select the entire matrix. And there is one missing thing. So I'm going to hit Control Shift down arrow until I get to the bottom of my data. Now, one thing that we can keep in mind, if we go ahead and select the entire matrix or something just beyond the entire matrix, so let's say we go down to row 5,000 or something like that, because 5,000 will last us for quite a while. Um, we have a matrix where we can just insert data into this thing, and then we can refresh the pivot table and it'll just work. But I'm going to select all of the data all the way down to a million rows. I'm going to hit pivot table, and you can see here that it says A to F. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select A1 to F5000 just to make it a little bit smaller, and it actually might be A2. Let's see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all this data. I'm going to hit my arrows again. So just select your entire matrix. I'm going to hit pivot table, and it's going to be A1 to F467, but I'm just going to change this to 5,000 just so that I have a large enough pivot table to accommodate the data in the future. So I'm going to go here. This is what your pivot table should look like. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to insert or use this pivot table, and we're also going to insert a slicer. So if we were just to use this pivot table, we have 4 different places where we can drop stuff. We've got the filter. So I'm going to go ahead and put amount down here in values. So that's the count of the amount right there. So if I hit this drop down and I go to value field settings, I can select sum. And we can see right here that it's negative $88,000. Okay. So what we can do is we can put this expense category, and we can look at these expense categories now up here in this pivot table. So if we wanted to know how much we spent on cleaning, we've got that. Now we can also select multiple items to where we can say, oh, if we wanted cleaning and maintenance, then we can say that, oh, we've spent $12,000. Now that's kind of useful depending on what you're looking for, but we can also drag this expense category down here into the rows column. What that does is it puts the heading in the rows column. And so you can select everything except for the blanks, because the blanks are the rows that you haven't used yet. So all the way down to 5,000. And then you can see exactly what's going on right here. So that doesn't look very pretty, but so you can right click over here in the sum amount column, and you can go to number format, and we can go to currency. We can take the decimal places off if you want, or you can keep them on there, and we can click OK, and it'll give us a dollar amount here. So now we've got the sum of each one of the categories within our matrix that we wanted to look at. So you can see that most of this stuff was underneath the mortgage, so that we can probably ignore that stuff. So if you wanted to take out mortgage, all you do is go to this drop down and you can take out mortgage. It'll give you the grand total. So we've made $23,000 if you don't include the mortgage stuff. I'm going to put it back in here. Take out the blanks because we don't need the blanks. Those are just zero. If we put them back in, I'll show you what happens. Absolutely nothing. It'll just give you a blank row right here. So it doesn't really do anything for you. All right, so now let's insert the slicer, or we can use this other columns. And what columns does is if you, like, let's say we put date over here, it'll insert the year of the date, and then you can expand it from there, and you can get rid of the blanks also right here. So um, looks like less than or greater than. So you've got grand totals in 2018 and 2019. So that might be useful also. The other thing I wanted to show you, and you can also break it out. If you hit these pluses, then it'll open up by quarters and then months. I'm going to pull these out, and I'm going to pull this out. And now we're going to put down our date right here. And we're just going to go ahead and expand these. And to expand these, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just going to select these, both of them. I'm just going to expand to collapse, and I'm going to expand entire field. I'm going to do it one more time because I want it to be at month. So you can see now it's at month for each one of the things. So you can see what the subtotals are and bolds and all that type of stuff, and then the monthly totals and such for each one of the categories. So to insert a slicer, I'm going to put my cursor within the pivot table, and then we go up to Analyze. And there's something in here that says Insert Slicer. So if I insert slicer, we can select any one of the data fields that we have. So I'm going to select expense category. Just going to select OK. And what that did is that gave us a box over here. So basically what that does is I'm going to insert a few rows up here. And I'm going to put this slicer right up here. And this just gives us all of the categories that we had so that we don't have to go to these drop downs. So that's all that does. That's what a slicer is. You can have multiple slicers. So if you wanted to just look at cleaning fees, you click on cleaning. This is all the cleaning fees for each one of the sessions. If you wanted to look at income, just click on income, and you can see that's how much we made. If you want to remove the slicer, just have everything in there, just click this X up here, the filter with the X thing, and it brings everything back. And then you can also click this one where you can select multiple things. So here's cleaning, here's income. So this is cleaning and income together. Then you can get rid of the slicer. So you can turn on the multiple select or turn it off. So we're going to go ahead and insert one more slicer. So I go to Analyze. I'm going to go to Insert Slicer. I'm going to go ahead and put in, let's say, check number. I don't know. And then you can see that check numbers are right here. If you're curious when you wrote a check, what it is, then you can see that if you hit 694, you can see that mortgage is automatically highlighted over here in the expense category. So check number 694 is a mortgage payment, and it looks like it was for negative $408. So we could select 605, 695, and so on. I mean, there's not a lot of check numbers in here, but if you had a bunch of check numbers in here and you were just kind of curious, that's how you would do it. So I'm going to go ahead and open all of these up, hit this X here, and I'm going to hit this X here, and then it's all ready to go. And so there's many things you can do with these slicers, and there's many things that you can do with these pivot tables. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this expense category back down in here, and then we can see that kind of stuff. I'm going to get rid of the blanks. So there's no blanks in there. I just go up there to my slicer, hit the blanks, and then that's kind of it. So that's your overview of how to make a pivot table. That's your overview of how to insert a slicer. Thanks for watching. And just an FYI before we leave, this data was in this tab right here. I'm sorry, this tab right here. And this is just an unusable format for pivot tables. So what we did is we translated it over to a usable format, which is this matrix right here. So going forward, you're just going to add data down here to the bottom. So I would just copy something, paste it down here, change the date, change everything, change all the stuff. And then once you're done adding it here to the bottom, you just go over here to the Pivot Slicer tab, right click and refresh. That'll put that data into the matrix. All right, thank you. Bye.